Hello, welcome everyone. I am Richard Carey. Welcome to the Bcamp podcast. And today we have with us David Shaffer, who is the Managing Director of Strategic AI at Sierra Solutions. So thank you so much for joining us today, Dave.
Yeah, no problem. I'm glad to be here.
And to get started, maybe tell us a little bit about Sierra Solutions.
Sure. Sure. Sierra Solutions is a consulting and staffing firm that focuses primarily in the pharmaceutical life sciences industry. They are, branching out into other industries as well, but they are, very successful in finding people with the right technical skills, and they're really focusing on building up an AI practice. And they've had me in charge of that starting this year to try to reach out to the organizations that they have relationships with and establish some further relationships with them, to bring AI strategy into their business.
Yeah, I love that. This is going to be so relevant for all of our listeners who are trying to get into AI engineering.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
this is awesome. So, okay, thank you. That's perfect. So maybe tell us a little bit about your journey. How did you get into AI? How did you get where you're at now?
Sure. So I guess I look at your career in quarters. So you have to work, you have to be marketable for 40 years. So I know that can be pretty intimidating, but if you're in your 20s and you're just getting started, you have to have skill or skills that will keep you employable for 40 years, right? On average, that's what most people have to work. And what I've done, over the course of my career, which is entering into the fourth quarter, um, is to just constantly look at what's happening in the marketplace, what's happening in the world, and never turning down an opportunity to learn something new. Because the days are long gone from my parents' generation, which worked for 30 years, got a gold watch, and stayed at the same place. That's just not realistic for most of us anymore. Most of us will have multiple jobs in our career. So, what I've done is I've just continuously learned, and continuously tried to look forward to try to anticipate what's going to happen. And for the first half of my career, I was actually a scientist. I was a biochemist in pharmaceuticals, and I was developing vaccines and working at the bench in the lab. And the first big opportunity was the internet. As crazy as that sounds, but that was a really disruptive technology, and that put me at a crossroads in my career at the time. Do I continue in science, or do I start to investigate IT? And I took that road because scientists didn't understand IT, and the IT people didn't understand scientists, and I started to carve out a very very profitable niche where I understood both. And in the second half of my career, that got me into creating commercial applications for pharmaceutical and life sciences because I understand the science, I understand the technology, and I was able to blend those two skills. So over the past 7 years, keeping up that spirit of constantly trying to remain employable and marketable, I jumped into the AI space and started to learn some of the data science and NLP, natural language processing technologies that were coming out, and learning how to apply them to the job I had at the time, which was helping a company process all of the patents for the U.S. Patent Office. So, data science and NLP was instrumental in increasing the efficiency of that organization, and I've continued to build from there. With as different AI technologies became available, learning what they are, and then learning how to apply them to business problems. So that's where I am today. I am doing a lot of work with generative AI and AI strategy and understanding the AI technologies that are coming out, which are literally coming out daily and weekly at this point, and staying on top of that and helping businesses figure out the proper way to apply them.
Yeah, I love that. I love that perspective of just being aware of what's going on in the market and preparing
Yeah,
yourself for these changes.
yeah, you have to. And I was really in many many years ago, and inspired by a colleague of mine. I have to give him credit for this quote. His name is Hans Ekman, but he said you have to ask yourself, do you have 20 years of experience, or do you have 1 year of experience repeated 20 times? And that can be a punch in the gut, if you really reflect on what you're doing and realize, yeah, I've been coming to work for X amount of years and I do the exact same thing every single day, and that's a red flag that your skills may not be marketable, much longer because um, if you're constantly learning, you're constantly taking on new challenges, and your 20 years of experience is varied, it's going to be much better for you in the long run.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that. And what would you, as you're hiring AI engineers, what are you looking for?
Well, that's a great question. There's really three branches of AI, in my mind, from a career perspective, and one is the data science and machine learning uh, pillar. And those are the people that are great statisticians, great at high level math, and they love applying, creating new algorithms with statistics and math and data. And those people have a very narrow focus, but it's very deep, right? So those are the people
Hmm.
that are helping create these models and helping fine tune um, these solutions. Then there's the technicians, the engineers, the people who write code, and they really focused on all the cloud technologies, AWS, Google, Microsoft Azure, and getting certified in all of those, um, understanding Python, and really being able to write the code to make these back end solutions work. And then the third pillar is the one that I'm in, and that is being creative and understanding the technology, right? I know enough about the data science and the machine learning. I know enough about the engineering technology, um, to then apply that to to solving problems creatively. So it takes all three of those types of people to make an AI solution work really well. So on the product side, I'm the one that engages with the business, develops those positive relationships, understands their business needs, their pain points, and then can communicate with the engineers and the data scientists and develop the right solution. So, uh,
Hmm.
they're really the three branches. If you're looking to get into I suggest that you have an honest assessment of yourself, what your interests are, what your strengths and weaknesses are, and that'll help you figure out which of those three branches you should be moving towards.
I love that. And it's funny, I feel like uh, it's harder than it should be sometimes to do an honest assessment of myself. Why, for some reason, it's
Yes.
harder to see like what I'm good at than it is to see what other people are good at sometimes. But
Yeah. Yeah, it is, but it's so important to be able to,
hmm.
be self-aware and reflect on that. I mean, I tried to be a developer once, and I was the world's worst developer because I didn't enjoy it. You know,
Hmm.
yeah, I could write code but when you're not enjoying something, you're not putting out your best work. So I realized that that wasn't the right place for me, and I quickly figured out that I wanted to be, in front, speaking to people and helping define the problem, and then working with the technical people and the business to come up with a solution, that makes them happy.
I love that. So What can you talk a little bit about some of the common challenges that you're seeing, or do you see common challenges, or is it pretty different with all the companies that you're talking to, what they're trying to solve with AI?
Well, I think the biggest challenge right now, and I think this challenge is going to be around for a little while, is figuring out how to get the productivity and the efficiency out of this AI technology, right? Just this week, ChatGPT turned 2, so it's 2 years old. 2 years ago that it burst onto the scene, and since then, you just look at the AI frenzy, right? It's
Hmm.
very similar or reminiscent to the internet, the dot-com, bubble, right? Everybody is doing everything they can to bring AI capabilities into their organization, and executives are excited. This is the silver bullet. It's going to save all this money and all this, give us all this productivity. And, the expectations are ahead of reality right now.
Hmm.
So the challenges are, trying to figure out how to employ AI to the right business problems. Because what's really quite interesting about AI to me is this is such a significant mindset shift for all of us. I mean, all of us are conditioned that the computer systems they're accurate and they're correct, right? You go to your bank account online and it's always correct. The calculator is always
Hmm.
correct. We've just been conditioned, that computers are correct. What's fascinating about Gen AI is it's designed by default to not be 100% correct, right? And it won't be. So the question becomes, well, how do we use it then, right? If your business problem is I need to extract, all the records, that contain the word Smith, Gen AI or AI is not your solution, right? Use SQL. It's proven. It's been around for
Hmm.
decades, right? Um, you know,
Right.
so that's the challenge right now is people have this expectation that you know high expectations that Gen AI is going to make me so creative, and then they go and they use it, and the answer is almost right. It's pretty good, right? And people go in with the wrong mindset and they go, this is garbage. This doesn't help me. It's only pretty good. Um, so right now the best application of these AI solutions is to enhance people's creativity and to enhance their expertise. It's also great at creating unique experiences, right? So you could use it to explain a complicated concept, to you and I in completely different, modes, right? Based on your learning style, my learning style. So, these are just some really high level examples of the best ways to use AI. And I think that's what companies are struggling with it. They have these high expectations, they're trying to apply it, to the wrong problems.
Interesting. So, how do you help people with that? Do you have to do some expectation setting, or is
Y-
it like,
Yeah, you absolutely do. So, for example, I'm working on a project, now that is looking to use Gen AI to help people analyze a large set of articles, right? So instead of reading those articles, like that's the process today, is these people would have to
hmm.
um, go out and find the articles, and then they would have to open them and read them all, to figure out which ones
Hmm.
are the most relevant. Um, you know, we're creating an application this is a good application of Gen AI because we can use Gen AI to look for the articles, score them for relevance. So we can have AI read the articles, right? It's great at that.
Hmm.
And then tell the user, hey, we think these are the most relevant articles. Now that's not going to be perfect, but what it just did was gave you an enormous head start, right?
Hmm.
And now that you have the most relevant articles, you can have Gen AI help you read them. So you can ask
Mm-hmm.
questions and say, of these, the 10 most relevant articles, which one, have this information or etc. And then again, it's going to do a really good job, not perfect. Again, not perfect, but it's going to give you, a response, that then gets you started. So I have to set that expectation that this solution is going to give you, almost all of the most relevant articles, not all of them, right? And then it's going to give you almost all of the right information, right? And
Mm-hmm.
you're absolutely right. It's setting that expectation because if I don't set that expectation and just give people the tool, they're probably going to be dissatisfied with it and say it missed 3 articles, right? Doesn't work,
Mm-hmm.
So when you explain to people that this is augmenting their expertise, that it really helps.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that, and I think that makes sense. And when you're, so say you're hiring an engineer to help you build this application, are you looking for previous experience working with LLMs, or like, or do you basically just look for somebody who's smart, or like, how do you think about, hiring an engineer to help build that application?
Yeah, I think you're really looking to someone that understands the differences in strategies for building an LLM-based application. To give you an example, I'm looking for someone that at least knows why you would fine-tune, an application versus using a technique such as retrieval augmented generation or RAG, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is just 2 different strategies. Fine-tuning, very expensive, but highly accurate, and it's also very slow. If you need speed and you don't care that it's plus or minus 5% accurate, um, you know, and you don't want to spend all the money to train, then you use RAG, right? So I'll
Mm-hmm.
be looking for an engineer that at least understands, why and where you would use a certain strategy for an AI solution.
Mm-hmm. Like what the trade-offs are.
Yeah. And someone that's on top of the current thinking because it's moving so fast, right?
Mm-hmm.
These RAG solutions, RAG has been, in the that's what a lot of people are creating. But now, not I think it was a couple weeks ago or a month ago, Anthropic, had an article about conceptual RAG, right? That's just a different type. Then there's knowledge graphs, and there's all different ways of creating an application built around an LLM. So I would really be looking for an engineer that at least understands the different strategies and also gives me an indication that they are aware of something that happened very recently, because that tells me that they're staying up on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. So I want to change gears just a little bit here,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
I'm curious to just hear from you. You talked a little bit about just like staying on top of things, kind of lifelong learning. I'd be interested to hear your experiences about your own education, whether that's been formal education or
hmm
informal education. What are things that have worked or didn't work for you?
Sure. Yeah, so my formal education is, I got my first undergrad in biology, and that's how I became a biochemist. I got into the lab at started out at Sterling Winthrop Pharmaceuticals, and then did some HIV research at Thomas Jefferson University, and ended up at Merck for many years. Um, so, the undergrad was a jump start into a scientific career. And then, I had the opportunity when, I know how crazy it sounds, but it seemed like the internet was going to be a big deal. Um, that, that I had this opportunity from Merck. They were fantastic. They said, we'll send you back to school if you want. And I got a second undergrad in computer science. And, it took a couple of years, and got the education to help me learn how to code and learn the the engineering side. And then ultimately got a master's degree from Drexel in information systems that helped focus more on the business side of IT. So my formal education, it did give me a great foundation in science, computer science, and business. Um, but honestly, I've learned the most on the job and looking for opportunities on the job, like never turning down a great opportunity to go learn something new. And now with AI, I do spend quite a bit of time on my own, um, taking courses, trying things. I'm building my own custom GPTs, just doing something fun. Say, let's see if I can get this to work. Um,
Hmm.
because because there is so much out there that you can do on your own, especially with prompt engineering and learning. Microsoft Copilot is going to be the new Microsoft Office very quickly. Learning how to use these LLMs, I think it's very important, for people to understand that this is the next big disruptive technology that is going to be expected, of all of us. I'm also old enough to know or remember job descriptions that used to say, computer literate. You must be computer literate. That meant I knew how to use Office, right? Um, that's gone today. If you're hired in any position, it's just expected that you can create a PowerPoint deck and use Word and Excel. That's where we're going with prompt engineering, for example. With Microsoft Pilot, it's going to come into Office 365, and everyone's just going to expect that you can write prompts to make that PowerPoint presentation in 30 minutes instead of 4 hours.
Hmm.
And those types of
Yeah.
resources are cheap, Coursera, Udemy, LinkedIn, all those types of places have great opportunities to learn something quickly.
Yeah. Do you think you would have ever learned to code if you hadn't have gone back? And were you like working and going to school at the same time? I'm
I
curious about
was,
that.
yeah,
That Merck just said.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. No, I did my undergrad, my second undergrad at night. So worked all day, went to school from 6 to 10 p.m. and then did the same thing for my master's. It was 2 years for the master's, but it was again 6 to midnight. At least 4 days a week, taking classes and doing that. You can be self-taught. I worked with a lot of self-taught engineers that taught themselves how to code. So that's certainly a possibility. Um, and you know, it, the other thing about AI and these models is they're getting better and better at writing code, right? So they're
Hmm.
really pretty good at writing Python right now. They're not perfect, but they're almost perfect at writing SQL queries. So, if anybody thinks they're going to have a career for the next 20 years writing SQL queries, I got some bad news for them. But you can learn, how to code on your own, through those types of online resources.
Yeah, interesting. Well, Dave, this has been a fantastic conversation. Thank you for joining us. I don't know if you have any final thoughts or questions or things to say before we wrap up here.
No, I just encourage everybody that's to think about how much longer they need to stay marketable, right? For myself, it may not be that much longer, but if you've got 20, 30 years, you really need to take a look at what's happening, especially with AI, and try to take an honest assessment of where you're at and what you need to do to remain marketable, and then make a plan, go out and get those skills and get that experience.
Yeah, I love that. This honest self-assessment. This it seems like this could be its own company to help people do honest self-assessments. There's probably companies out there that do it, but
Yeah,
keep coming back to this.
yeah,
This is a key, and it's
yeah,
also challenging.
yeah. Heck, maybe I'll make a custom GPT and put another one in the store.
Yeah, there you go. Do the self-assessment GPT.
Yeah,
This is a good idea. Well, yeah, again, Thank you, Dave, for joining us, and we will see you next time.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me, Richard. It's been great.